It was a freezing February night in the quiet English city of Hull. A young university student, full of life and potential, was last seen stepping out of a taxi just a few hundred yards from her front door. Within hours, she had vanished. For weeks, her disappearance left a community searching, her family praying, and investigators racing against time. And when the truth finally emerged, it was darker and more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. This is the heartbreaking and chilling case of Libby Squire, a story of trust, danger, obsession, and the devastating consequences of one ordinary night that spiraled into tragedy. To truly understand the weight of this case, we have to begin with Libby herself. Libby Squire was born on September 3, 1998. She grew up in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, in a warm, close-knit family. Her parents described her as compassionate, vibrant, and full of energy. A young woman who had so much love to give to others. Friends recall her infectious laugh, her kind-hearted nature, and her ability to make everyone around her feel valued. Libby was academically gifted and chose to study philosophy at the University of Hull. Moving away from her family wasn't easy, but she quickly found her place. She was popular among her peers, loved nights out with friends, and dreamed about building a meaningful career after graduation. At 21, she was just stepping into adulthood, excited about the life ahead of her. Hull was meant to be a city of opportunity, a safe environment where Libby could learn, grow, and live freely. But in February 2019, the very streets that should have held promise turned into the scene of a nightmare. February 1, 2019 was like any other Friday for university students in Hull. Students gathered in bars, pubs, and clubs to celebrate the end of the week. Libby had gone out with her friends to a local club called the Welly. She was in high spirits, enjoying the night, but by around 11 p.m., things began to change. Security staff noticed she seemed heavily intoxicated and refused her entry back into the club when she stepped outside for a moment. Unable to get back in, her friends decided to make sure she got home safely. They put her in a taxi around 11:29 p.m. and gave the driver her address, just a short ride away. That taxi ride should have been the final step before she curled up in bed and slept off the night. But as we know now, Libby never made it inside her house. At approximately 11:30 p.m., CCTV captured Libby exiting the taxi near her student accommodation. She stumbled slightly, the cold February wind biting at her as she walked down Beverly Road. But instead of going into her home, she lingered outside. For reasons still unclear, she did not enter her house that night. By midnight, Libby was seen sitting on a bench in a nearby park. She was clearly cold and disoriented, vulnerable in a way that was obvious to anyone watching. And tragically, someone was watching. While Libby sat outside, another figure was moving through the area. 29-year-old Pawel Relowicz. Relowicz was originally from Poland but had been living in Hull for several years. Outwardly, he appeared to be an ordinary family man, married with 2 children, working as a butcher. To neighbors, he seemed polite, quiet, and unremarkable. But beneath that facade, he carried a disturbing secret. Relowicz had a hidden history of sexual deviance, including voyeurism, indecent exposure, and burglary. He would break into women's homes to steal underwear, spy on them in their most private moments, and expose himself in public. His crimes had gone unpunished for far too long, creating a predator who was free to roam the streets without consequence. On that night, Relowicz happened to be driving along Beverly Road when he noticed Libby, alone, drunk, and vulnerable in the freezing cold. Instead of offering help, he saw an opportunity to act out his darkest impulses. CCTV captured his silver Vauxhall Astra circling the area several times, as if he was calculating his approach. At around 12:08 a.m., he finally pulled over near the bench where Libby sat. Witnesses later said the encounter was quick, almost too quick to notice. Within minutes, she was gone, lured or forced into his vehicle. That was the last time she was ever seen alive. When Libby failed to return home the next morning, her housemates grew worried. Calls went unanswered, her bed hadn't been slept in, and by afternoon, panic set in. The sense of unease grew heavier with every passing hour. Her parents were notified, and police quickly launched a missing persons investigation. Within hours, volunteers, friends, and members of the community joined the search. Posters went up, social media flooded with appeals, and vigils were held as people hoped desperately for her safe return. Hull, usually a quiet university town, suddenly felt gripped by fear and uncertainty. The search was massive. Helicopters scanned from above, divers searched rivers, and officers combed parks, fields, and streets. Detectives meticulously gathered CCTV footage from businesses, taxis, and street cameras in the area. That's when they noticed the suspicious car movements around Beverly Road, a silver Astra circling and stopping multiple times during the critical window. This clue was vital. It didn't take long for investigators to trace the vehicle back to one man, Pawel Relowicz. His name would soon become synonymous with fear, manipulation, and predatory violence. When detectives questioned Relowicz, he claimed he had simply been trying to help Libby. He insisted that he picked her up to take her home, but that she refused. According to him, he dropped her off safely a short distance away. But his story didn't match the evidence. His phone data, CCTV, and conflicting statements painted a picture of deceit. Police also uncovered his disturbing criminal background, reports of him following women, exposing himself, and stealing intimate items from people's homes. Despite mounting suspicion, without a body, prosecutors faced a challenge. For weeks, the search continued, stretching across rivers, fields, and neighborhoods. Libby's family clung to hope, but as time passed, dread grew heavier. On March 20th, 2019, 7 weeks after her disappearance, a grim discovery was made. A body was found in the Humber estuary, nearly 20 miles from where Libby was last seen. The currents had carried her far from Hull, but investigators were able to confirm it was Libby Squire. The cause of death was hypothermia, but the investigation revealed a more sinister truth. Libby had been raped before she died. The man responsible had left her exposed to the freezing elements, ensuring she would never survive the night. The grief was unimaginable. For her family, friends, and the community that had prayed for her return, the discovery marked the end of hope and the beginning of mourning. In 2020, Pawel Relowicz stood trial for the rape and murder of Libby Squire. The prosecution laid out the timeline with chilling clarity. Relowicz had spotted Libby alone and vulnerable, picked her up under false pretenses, and then drove her to Oak Road playing fields, a remote area where he assaulted her. Afterward, he abandoned her in the freezing cold, knowing she wouldn't survive. Forensic evidence combined with CCTV footage and his history of predatory behavior built a case that was impossible to ignore. Relowicz tried to maintain his innocence, claiming the sex had been consensual, but the jury saw through his lies. In February 2021, he was found guilty of rape and murder. His sentence, life in prison with a minimum term of 27 years. For Libby's family, the verdict brought justice but not peace. Her mother, Libby Squire, spoke publicly about her grief, describing the unbearable pain of losing her daughter. She has since dedicated herself to raising awareness about sexual violence, vulnerability, and the importance of recognizing predatory behavior. Hull, too, was changed by Libby's death. Vigils, memorials, and community events honored her life, ensuring she would never be forgotten. University students and staff worked together to create safer spaces, and Libby's name became a rallying cry for change. The tragedy highlighted not just the danger posed by predators like Relowicz, but also the systemic failures that allowed him to slip under the radar for so long. Libby's story is not one of statistics or headlines. It's about a young woman whose life was stolen in the cruelest way. She was just 21, with dreams, ambitions, and endless love for her family and friends. Her death stands as a haunting reminder of how quickly vulnerability can be exploited. It is also a call to action, to watch out for each other, to demand justice against predators, and to create a world where women can walk home safely at night without fear. Libby Squire's case is heartbreaking, horrifying, and unforgettable. It's a story of a young life cut short, of a family shattered, and of a community forever marked by loss. But it's also a story that continues to inspire change. If you've watched this far, I want to thank you for keeping Libby's memory alive by hearing her story. What do you think could be done to better protect people from predators like Relowicz? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear them. And if you found this video meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. Together, we can shine a light on stories that deserve to be told and honor the lives behind the headlines. This was the tragic case of Libby Squire.